Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Punchboard Report. My name is Blake Ryder. Today, we're looking at Wingspan, designed by Elizabeth Hargrave and published in 2019 by Stonemaier Games. Now, this game won like every single award for 2019. It won the Kennerspiel des Jahres, Gamers Game of the Year, and there's so many I had to write them down. But I mean, I'm only going to give you the tip of the iceberg. If you want to see how many awards this game won, go to Board Game Geek on its page and you can see. But it won the Golden Geek Most Innovative Board Game of the Year, Golden Geek Game of the Year, Golden Geek Best Strategy Game of the Year, Golden Geek Best Solo Game of the Year, Golden Geek Best Family Game of the Year, Golden Geek Best Card Game of the Year. It won the Dice Tower Best Game of the Year. It also won Elizabeth Hargrave the Dice Tower Award for Best New Designer, and there were so many more. Wingspan is an engine building game where you're going to be in charge of an aviary, and the aviary is divided into several different habitats, and each habitat has an action associated with it. And earlier on in the game, those actions are not going to be very strong. However, as you attract birds to the different habitats within your aviary, the actions associated with those habitats become stronger and stronger as the game progresses. So tell you what, let's get it set up on the table and we'll be back after that for some thoughts. Okay, so this is the setup for Wingspan, and every player is going to have one of these player boards. There's a bird feeder, which is a dice tower, and you have all the different food that's available at any given moment in the game. You have a score/round tracker, and this is going to kind of track the rounds of the game. There's 4 rounds, and before the game starts, you're going to pick these tiles at random, which is going to give you the scoring metric that'll be scored after each round. So this is the round 1 scoring metric, 2. These are variables, so game to game they'll change. They're double-sided, and there's more of them that come with the game. And this board itself is double-sided as well. This is the competitive side, so this is going to have like first place, second place in each metric, and it's going to be scored based on who's first or second in that metric. The other side is just going to give you points based on however many you have of that metric, and it's not comparing you to the other players. This is a nice little card rack, and these are the cards that you can draw. You can also draw directly from the card deck over here, and then you have some eggs and some food. So before the game begins, every player is going to get one of each type of food, and there's 5 different types of food. These are you have berries, and you have fish and grain and such. You have rodents. So you're going to get 5 of those, and you're also going to get 5 of these bird cards. And you have to keep a total of 5 between the cards and the food. So I can keep 1 food and 4 cards. I can keep 4 food and 1 card. I can do any combination thereof. And these bird cards are really going to drive the game. Let me quickly show you, give you a couple of examples. So here you have the wood duck. This can live in this habitat or this habitat, so the forest or the water habitat. This is how many points you'll have at the end of the game if you get this bird card in your habitat. And this is how many eggs the bird can hold. This is its type of nest. And then most birds have some sort of ability, though not all of them do. And then this is the food that you need to feed this bird to get it played into your habitat. So in order to actually play this wood duck, I would need 2 grain and 1 berries. Okay, so the game is largely going to revolve around these player boards. So let's take a quick zoom in on these and walk through how those work. Okay, so like I said, the game is going to revolve around these boards, and you have 4 different actions, and these are the actions in the game. You can play a bird, gain food, lay eggs, or draw bird cards. And every single round, you're going to have actions determined by the number of cubes you have here. In the beginning of the game, you will have 8. However, after each round, you're going to take 1 cube and place it on the score round tracker I showed you before to indicate how many points you get based on each scoring metric. So after round 1, you're going to have 7 actions in round 2. You'll have 6 actions in round 3, and then only 5 actions in round 4. But ideally, your actions will get more powerful as this is an engine builder. So the way this works, first action is play a bird. So if I have a hand of bird cards, I can play any one of these bird cards as long as I can pay the cost in food as well as eggs. So let's hypothetically say I wanted to play this wood duck from before. I would have to pay those foods, so the grain, and the berries, and then I can place it in either of these 2 habitats, either the water or the forest. So let's hypothetically say I did play a bird, place that there to indicate that I took that action. Now I have 1 fewer actions. I now have 7 left, and let's say I play it over here. Okay, I would pay the food that I would obviously, of course, need the food to pay, and there you go. So now that is the first action. That is play a bird. The next one is gain food from the bird feeder. Now, this is the bird feeder right over here, and these are the food that is available for the taking. So based on this board right now, if I wanted to take the gain food action, I would place my marker there, And the rightmost available space, I should say the leftmost available space, right now indicates that I get one food, and I could get a second food if I want to by discarding a card. So that is what my food action is currently. However, if this was not there and I wanted to gain food, I would only get the one food and I would not have the option of discarding a card for a second food. So as you play these cards to these different habitats, your actions become more powerful. So later in the game, let's hypothetically say I have this red-tailed hawk and I got him down, or her, it could be a female bird. Now, when I take the gain food action, I will get 2 by default. But now if I have this spotted owl played as well, and I take gain food, now I get 2, and I can get a third by discarding a card. So as you play more and more birds to your different habitats, your actions will get more powerful. So that is how the board works. All these different habitats work in the exact same fashion. So that is the gain food action. That is how you're going to get food for more food to lay more birds out. The next is lay eggs, and again, it works the exact same way. Initially, I can lay eggs, and I can lay 2. However, if I get more and more laid out here, then I can get 2, plus I can discard a food, any food, to get another egg. And then if I have another one out here, then I get 3 by default, and so on and so forth. Laying eggs, all the way that works, I would simply get 2 eggs, and I would take 2 eggs, and I would place them on a bird, okay? So in this situation, I only have 1 bird, so they're both going to go on there. At the end of the game, eggs are going to be worth points, but beyond that, if you want to actually place a bird in this column, this column, this column, or this column, you need to pay egg costs as well. So not only do you pay the food, but you also have to pay 1 egg to place a bird in this column, 1 egg as well here, or 2 eggs in either of these 2 columns. So eggs are going to be necessary to actually build up your tableau and build up your engine. So that is how the lay eggs action works. And then draw bird cards. It's the exact same thing. You basically have to see however many, whatever your leftmost available spaces, and then from there, you will then initially have the strength of 1 individual card. However, you could then discard an egg for a second one if this space was closed, was covered, I should say. So in drawing bird cards, you can take from the draw deck, or you could theoretically take from the bird, the display right over there, and then you could take any bird you want. So that is how this board works, and over time you are going to simply be building out your engine that way. The other thing to point out is that are these abilities. Now these abilities will trigger when you take the action in that associated row. So for example, for this one, it says when activated, draw 2 cards. If you do, discard 1 card from your hand at the end of your turn. So this is a way to get additional cards. So if I had that card there and I took the gain food action, any one of the cards in that row that has one of these actions will get triggered. So I can get food, plus I can trigger this ability, which would then allow me to get more cards and then build up my hand of cards. This one, right over here, the red-breasted nuthatch, this one, when activated, gain 1 grain from the supply and cash it on this card. So if this was here, and I took the gain food action, I would get 2 food, then I would gain 1 grain from the supply, right over here, gain a grain, and place it over here, cash it on there. Cashing it means that I just place it on top, and that's going to be worth a point at the end of the game. And then I will go here, and then I would again draw cards up to 2 cards, and then discard 1 from my hand. So you can also then build your engine that way. And there's a lot of different types of cards. Here's another example. This one, when activated, I can discard an egg from any of my birds to gain 2 food from the supply. So there's a whole bunch of different actions and different types of actions that you can have that trigger as you take these various actions. So that is generally how this board works in the game. So that is generally how the game works. You're going to start the game with 5 cards and 5 food. You pick a total of 5 combined between the food and the cards. You will also get 2 of these bonus cards, and you'll pick 1 to keep, and then you discard the other. These will give you endgame scoring. So for example, birds worth less than 4 points. 5 to 6 of them will give you 3 points, or 7 or more will get you 6 points. Here's another example. Birds that can only live in the forest habitat, 3 to 4 will give you 4 points. 5 will give you 8 points. So for example, this one would qualify because this one can only live in the forest, whereas this one would not, because this one could live in the forest or the water. So you're going to take one of these, And there are other opportunities in the game to get more of those bonus cards. You just start with those. So that's really the gameplay. You're gonna have 8 actions, like I said, for the first round. You're going to be laying cards down. At the end of the round, you are then going to look at this sheet. And in the first round, the scoring that we have out here is simply total birds. The second scoring is birds in that habitat. This one is birds that have that nest. Remember I showed you before, every bird has a certain nest type. So for example, here's that nest type right there. So this metric would, in the third round, would be birds with that nest type that have eggs on it, okay? And then the fourth round is eggs in the water habitat. So at the end of every single round, you're simply going to, in this situation, this will be a comparison relative to the other players, like I mentioned. So let's say I had the most bird cards at the end of the first round, I would get the first place points, and let's say my opponent came in second, and this person came in third, and now we all place our markers there, and now we all, at the end of the round, would take our markers off the board, and now we have 7 markers, 7 actions in the next round, but like I said, they're more powerful. That's it. We play 4 rounds, and at the end of the game, we take the handy-dandy little scoring pad, and then we look at scoring. So here we go. In this situation, we're going to get points for birds, because like I mentioned, every bird is going to give you points. You will have points for bonus cards. You will have points for end-of-round goals, which are those. Then you will have points. You'll get points for eggs on cards. You'll get points for food on cards, like I showed you that cached cards, caching food on cards. And then you have tucked cards. So there's another action in the game, one of these brown actions that say draw a card from the top of the deck, and if it meets certain requirements, it may be if it feeds on a certain type of food, or if the bird is a certain size, because all these birds have their wingspan. So this is a 53 centimeter wingspan. It'll say if it is a certain size, then you can tuck the card behind it, essentially kind of growing a flock for this card, and those are going to be worth points as well. So you'll add up all the points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. So there's a reason this game won like every single award, and it's because it's an amazing game. It's fantastic. It was groundbreaking when it came out. Right now, 2 years later, it still is a groundbreaking game. People are still loving it. More and more expansions keep coming out. This game has every single ingredient, really, that is required for a game to be successful, and it connects and it hits it out of the park. So, I mean, component-wise, the components are amazing. They're some of the best you can find in a game, and Stonemaier just knocks it out of the park once again. Those eggs are fantastic. They're weighted. They are nice to touch. That birdhouse dice tower bird feeder, amazing. What game comes with a bird feeder or dice tower in the box, and it fits fantastically well, so you don't have to like store it elsewhere. The game has those little tumblers for all the different eggs and food that they come with. That those player boards are big and just well built and then feel nice. They look great. Even the instruction manual has that like linen finish on it, and it feels like you're playing like a luxury game. It is fantastic. The components are some of the best you'll ever see in a game. And you know those cards. I mean the art on the box is great. I love throwing it on my shelf. The cards are 170 cards, all with different art. I mean, the flavor text on the cards. If you're interested in birds, and I'm not super interested in birds as a thing. I mean, I like birds like anyone else, but but when I play this game, I'm reading all these facts. I'm learning a ton. It pulls you in, it sucks you in, and it keeps you hooked. That's how this game is. And those cards, let's talk about the cards for a second. 170 cards, each with a ton of different, there's so much variety in the cards. I didn't show this in the overview, but there's a lot of cards that actually give you actions that trigger on your opponent's turns. So when you're playing a multiplayer game, the game plays up to 5 players, you can really focus on those if you want, and you can have things happen to you, and actions that you could take on your opponent's turns if you build your engine out that way. You could focus on eggs. Every single card is a different permutation of points, abilities, egg capacity, habitat, how much food it takes, and there's so much variety and different. It works so differently depending on what you get and how you approach it. You can focus on eggs and just get a lot of cards with a lot of egg capacity and drive your egg production up, and then focus on just laying eggs. Those are going to be worth points. You can do so many different things, and that is awesome. Over and above that, the game has an amazing arc. Like, early in the game, your actions are just weak, and they may almost seem a little bit restrictive, but as the game progresses, you can make them more and more powerful, and the game just progresses so beautifully. Like, you have more weak actions in the beginning, you have fewer but much stronger actions at the end of the game. It just progresses so nicely, and it evolves. It's a game that starts and ends differently, but you can see the build, you can see it grow. Just fantastic. The thematic integration of this game is so top-notch, how the theming is integrated into the mechanics of the game, because you have different habitats, and you have to attract birds to those different habitats to grow your actions, and you need eggs, and you need to lay eggs, and laying eggs is going to result in you having more and more birds, because you're going to need those eggs to actually attract more birds. The theming of this game is just top notch, and it really is spectacular. The only flaw in this game that I've found, and this is somewhat so this thing I mentioned before, this has the side where you're going to be more interacting with your competitors, and this is you're going to get points based on who is in first, who's in second, whatnot. This side, this one gives you points, so you use the exact same tiles, and rather than doing it competitively and saying I have more than you and I get more points, this is literally you get points based on whatever it is that the metric is. So if it's eggs in this habitat, however many you have, that's how many points you get, but it's to a maximum of 5, as you see. So at a certain point, especially later in the game, if you draw those tiles at random, if it's like birds on your board, and it's at the end, everyone's going to have 5, or if it's eggs in a certain habitat, or a lot, when you do it this way, a lot of times it's just almost too easy to max out, or you max out by default. So, and that's I always play on this side, unless maybe I'm playing a 2-player game with a newbie, a newcomer to the game, maybe I'll play on this side. And frankly, if I ever do play on this side, I'm gonna here I'll just go random on those tiles, and I'll just pick them at random, and we'll go with it. Here, there are certain combinations of these that just won't work, in my opinion, based on when they come up in which round. So here I'll be more selective individually in which ones I play with. But that's the only flaw I found in the game. Otherwise, the game is absolutely flawless. It is absolutely fantastic. If you've never tried it, seek it out, give it a try. Hopefully you like it as much as I do, and hopefully you like it as much as a lot of people do. So if this sounded interesting to you, check it out, and thank you again for watching. My name is Blake Ryder.